All right, here we are, another sunny night. One of the nice things is that today was a very hot, beautiful day. And how'd you celebrate? Did you go swimming today?
Only in my pond, cleaning out my pond. Just make sure the ducks and the geese are happy. So, yes, I was happy today.
All right, we got Jonathan Broadbent with us here tonight. I got Voice of Geauga. That's your new show, man.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
it's
sir.
going
it's
really well.
Thriving and doing well.
It's thriving. It's doing really well. Hey, tonight, great show. We have Chris Long going to be joining us at 7:15. And we got to talk about this explosion that's going on with Generation Z. First time in the history of the church, first time ever, that the youngest generation is leading the charge with spiritual growth. So there are more Generation Zers going to church now than any other age category. Believe it or not. You know who's number 2? Millennials, which would be the group just above them. So they've outpaced seniors and baby boomers and stuff like that. So we got to talk about that. That's interesting. And right along the same lines, we will be talking about this event here. I'll talk more about this, Kent, when we get Chris Long on. But I just want to let everybody know that we were pulling in the live stream for this event here. This is the
responsible for his own salvation.
Freedom 250. Rededicate
Most people long for our
America, National Jubilee of Prayer, Praise, Thanksgiving.
How can that happen?
And what we were doing is we had Hilary Jackson, who's in Washington, D.C., our correspondent out there, and she was doing interviews. And this is the thing that I want to let you both guys know about. We're going to show you a clip of it. So we were tied into the Trump feed, which is giving you all the different camera angles and the drone flying over and everything. Very, very professional, the sound and everything. So we were tapped into that. But we also had a correspondent on the ground getting interviews, and we cut to her a few times doing interviews, and it was all live. What do you think of them apples? So,
I think that's great, Joe.
Isn't that amazing?
Thanks to Hilary Jackson. That's great.
Yeah. Going against the heat, the strong heat and all that. But when Chris Long comes on, I want to talk a little bit more about that, brag a little bit more about it, because honestly, this time yesterday, Kent, I, and Hilary were all on there, and we still hadn't figured out how we were going to accomplish it. Okay, so that's
Kent did it. Three cheers for Kent.
Yeah, we were able to finally get it done. So
Kent is the man that makes it happen.
Yes, he is.
Speaking of shady characters. Oh, wait a minute. There's Chris.
There's Chris.
Are you with us, Chris? You're not moving. That's not a good sign.
I'm right here.
Okay, now he is.
I was wondering. You were so still there. I thought maybe you had frozen up. You know how the.
Good evening, gentlemen. Well, you said 7:15, but I'm ready to go.
All right, hang on one second. Because I know you're ready to go. You're always ready to go. We got Shelby with us as well.
Hey,
good to see you, Shelby. Thanks. So, we're going to talk about Generation Z and what is happening. Let me play this, Chris. Let me play this as an intro. This was from that video that I got off of your Facebook page. Okay. Let's play this first.
We are at the 539 church today. That's from Acts 5:39. If God is for it, you cannot stop it. And that's what's happening with this new revival of these young people all across America and across Ohio. Then after the shooting of Charlie Kirk, the open-air meetings of Decisions for Christ, water baptism, and commitments for Christ all but seemed to disappear. And then something happened. The movement didn't end. It moved indoors to the churches. Churches are seeing a flood of young people all across the nation and across our state. The congregation here was packed out this morning. It was a 700-seat auditorium. This is just one of their 3 services. And 60% or more of the congregation is under the age of 40. They have a passion for God. And if this be of God, according to Acts 5:39, you cannot stop it. Let's pray that this revival become an awakening. What's the difference between a revival and awakening? That a revival changes people's lives, an awakening changes both people and culture. Is what we're seeing right now the beginnings of a great awakening? Please pray with us that indeed this might be the beginning of a great awakening.
Awesome. Wow, that is so awesome. So, Chris, we got to pick your brains on this. I want to pick Shelby's brains on this as well, as to what is causing this. I know it's something over the last 2 to 3 years from what I've been reading. And yes. It says, this is, you just cannot pass it off. Higher church attendance among Generation Z, increased Bible sales, and faith content consumption. More young adults are openly talking about Christianity online. Campus prayer movements and worship events are drawing huge crowds, and rising interest in traditional Catholic, Orthodox, evangelical churches. I mean, the whole thing. So let's. You've been looking into this phenomenon a little bit. So, what do you think?
Oh, it's absolutely real. It's, so as a researcher, when all this broke out, we wanted to know if it was going to continue. So going back to the Asbury College revival, that was 3 years ago in February. You remember Tucker Carlson actually covered it. A number of major news medias were starting to cover what was happening at Asbury College. It was a chapel service that the college there, it's a Methodist college in Asbury, Kentucky. And it was a chapel service that just didn't end. And there was a lot of fervor with these young people, repentance, prayer, seeking God. It was very intent and serious. And then, literally thousands of people started coming to the town and trying to join in on the services, kind of rotating in and out of just literally this move of God. And there was a young lady who was the student president, was on with Tucker Carlson, and he said, well, what is this? And she says, what is it, right? That's a great question. This is our generation claiming Christianity for our own. And I thought that was a really great way to describe it. And it so much continued that, there was like 20,000 or 23,000 people. This is a small town in Asbury, Kentucky, by the way. So these folks that came from all over the country just kind of inundated this little place. Everything was shut down. People couldn't get to work. They couldn't get to the grocery store. So the college president said, okay, look, we're going to have to change things here. He said, we purposely didn't live stream this because the intimacy of what was happening with these students and their relationship with God, we didn't want it to be online and all that and lessened in any way. But he said, we're going to start live streaming it, and then they're going to start changing some things. But see, he said, if this is real, and it is, then it will spread out. We do not own this, he said. This will go elsewhere. And it did. You started seeing these large mass meetings at colleges and universities, almost spontaneous. And there would be these open air meetings where students, it was peer-to-peer kind of evangelism. No big name evangelists. It was, sometimes it would be college players that would get up, but they wouldn't, be promoting their team. They're just like, we want to tell you about what Jesus means to us. And, at Ohio State, those kids were on fire for God, and they had these big open air meetings. It was like 5,000 in attendance, and they had Decisions for Christ, water baptism. They were handed out something like 10,000 Bibles. This is just at Ohio State, but it happened at dozens and dozens of colleges and universities across the country. So it absolutely was real, but we began to wonder, it's like, well, what's going to happen with this, right? It's outside the church. It's not in the church. And at that time, there was no appreciable attendance gain within churches at the time. Then when Charlie was shot, Charlie Kirk, this was a moment for their generation, not so much us. I have a pastor friend, when Charlie was shot, a black pastor friend in Columbus, he said, when Charlie was shot, my daughter called me and said, they shot Charlie. He was like, who, Charlie, who? And he didn't understand the moment. Then he realized, she said, you introduced me to him at one of the events. And she said, I follow him. And it's like, they shot him. And this was really a moment for these kids. And so there was suspicion, conspiracy, and fear that filled the atmosphere of the college universities after that with these mass meetings. And so they all kind of disappeared for months on end. So Sylvia and I started going around to some churches in our network statewide, and we went to a church that was kind of struggling. They had just gone through a pastoral change and some kind of presbytery change in the church. They're kind of standing alone. It's an inner city church. And we thought, well, let's go check and see how they're doing. Well, lo and behold, 40% of the congregation was under the age of 40. There was all these young people there. And I thought, this is great. And I mean, they were on fire for God. When the service ended, they didn't leave. They were down at the altar. They were talking. They were sharing. They were fellowshipping. I thought, this is great. This is vibrant in the church. So I said, you know what? Let's go out and see what's going on right now with these churches. And I got to tell you, Joe, where we're going, we're seeing this church today. This church is on fire. This pastor's on fire. I haven't heard preaching like that. This man's under the age of 40. He's on fire for God. But see, we're seeing this everywhere. My own son came to me and he asked that, that I would do the wedding for him and his fiance. And I'm going to be honored to do that this summer. Being in public policy all these years, I haven't been active in the ministry. People say, do you pastor? I said, well, you can't do both. When I pastored, it's a full-time job. I tell pastors it's the hardest job in the world. I mean, it never ends. It's 7/24. I mean, you got to give your life to the flock and to the people. And so when I'm in public policy, you can't do both. I represent the church in public policy, but I haven't been able to actually do the work of a pastor in these years. So we're going to be honored to do that. I'm going to relicense with an organization to do some ministry now. And so it's funny, guys my age are retiring, and God's kind of kicking me back into the field. Moses was called into ministry at the age of 80. I'm in my late 60s. And here's God saying, now I'm opening up to you a door of ministry again. I've been 25 years at the Ohio Christian Alliance, right? We're not going to leave that. But the point is, there is a new ministry field. And it says, one friend said to me today, he said, Chris, these kids need seasoned Christians to help them in their newfound faith. But the great news is, and my son said to me, he said, Dad, all my friends are coming to faith in Christ. They're all hungry for God. This is real. This revival is real. The question is, like I said in the video, we've had two great awakenings in this country. One just prior to the Revolutionary War. The second, and there's a movie out there called The Awakening right now, and I think you can stream it right now. You need to do that. It talks about George Whitefield and Ben Franklin and their relationship, but it's a tremendous movie. Very moving. I was in tears. I didn't expect that. I thought, kind of a B studio movie. It's like, that would be okay. It would be nice. It was very moving. I had an old friend from high school messaged me, and she said, Chris, I saw The Awakening last night with my mother, and I was moved to tears. And this is before I saw it. And she said, now I know what you do.
Excellent. So let me get our good friend here, Shelby. And Shelby, you're a pastor, right? Or do I have that wrong? You turn your mic on, or do I not have you on? Do you have your mic on?
There. Is that better now?
Okay. Are you a pastor?
No, I'm not.
Okay. You were studying for it or something, I thought, but
I've been.
They
through...
kicked you out. Don't tell me they kicked you out. That's what happened. Jeez. But anyhow, would you agree with what Chris and everybody else is saying? There's this explosion of the youth now turning to Christ.
I've seen it in other areas. I'm not seeing it so much in the Columbus area where I'm at. We're seeing little pockets of it, but I think that there is a movement. It's the generation is rejecting the policies and stances of the past, and I think that this is fitting into it. I think this revival is part of that.
Chris, I want to ask you something. Is it a rebellious movement? Is that why they're coming to Christ? For instance, being anti-establishment, wanting masculinity, wanting traditionalism, want to be disciplined, things that they've been brought up that are bad. Is this just because they want to now be rebellious, or is this something else?
No, it's something else. This is absolutely a true move of God among these young people. I haven't seen passion like this in decades, quite honestly. Now, obviously there's always someone coming to faith in Christ, and there might be a youth group here or there where things are happening, and there's a lot of young people coming to Christ. But this transcends that. To Shelby's point, not every church is experiencing this right now, but the fact is, that's why we get out there to a lot of different churches. We're going to churches we've never been to before. So there may be some traditional churches that are seeing some uptick and some growth, but there's other churches that are seeing dramatic growth. But by the way, this is Catholic Orthodox. it's evangelical. They're coming to faith in Jesus Christ, okay? And so the Catholics, let's talk about this. So my good friend, Pastor Tim Throckmorton of the Family Research Council, he is the national field director for their work. He talks to pastors all over the country, speaks to them, and he visits all these churches. And he said, Chris, absolutely. Every pastor is saying we're seeing an influx of young people right now. He said, in addition to that, my own denomination has, at the conferences, decisions for Christ are up, baptisms are up. And he said, there's absolutely something going on out there. See, I had him on my radio program 3 years ago when the Asbury revival broke out. And we were all wondering, and I had Rodney Lord, a pastor from Southeast Ohio, in the program. And I said, we'll just have to wait and see what happens here. Well, we waited, we see what's going on. 3 years later, this thing is still expanding out. It's still growing, and it's real. We're seeing tangible evidence of it. There's no doubt about that. So, in fact, the Ohio Christian Alliance has seen an influx of young people. I talk about like our public policy work, but we're a Christian organization. We represent Christian interests before the State House in Columbus and Washington, D.C. And a couple of years ago, I asked our board, I said, are we done? Because, we were timing out. A lot of our folks were getting older. Some of them were timing out permanently, right? Some of our donors and all that, they're passing away, and others were going to nursing homes and moving away to Florida for retirement. I said, are we done? Especially after we lost the abortion issue and the legalization of marijuana issue, which we have long opposed as an organization. I said, and they said, no, our voice is still needed. Then something special happened. All of a sudden, these young people started to come, and not by few, to the freedom banquets we would host. And these are college-age students from multiple campuses across Ohio. They're serving Christ, and two, they want to be involved with public policy because they see the importance of it. So, that's what's kind of kept us going, and we're very excited about that.
I want to show you something here. This is what was Freedom 250. This was out in Washington, D.C., and let me just play this a second here. As you can see,
that we may always prove ourselves a
so they had this big event out there in Washington, D.C. today. Look at all the people, thousands and thousands of people. Really good turnout.
Fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in the day of trouble, suffer not one to trust in you.
Some of this, but the thing I want to also show you
to you,
is
me personally.
Well, to me personally,
we had Hilary out there, Hilary Jackson. She was out there in Washington, D.C., so she is actually interviewing for us, and she's talking to some of the pastors and stuff. And the reason I bring this up, a lot of young pastors and stuff, she's young, talking to other people. But here's the other thing, Chris, I wanted to show you and Brian and Jonathan. What we did on this, there's a little technical talk real quick here, but in order for us to pull this off, we had to tie into the Trump feed, which was the main feed. You get all the close-ups and the drones and all that kind of stuff, and just really professional. And then we had our equipment. This is our feed right here. This is our camera shooting live. And so we switched. We had to switch from the Trump feed over to our feed, and then back to the Trump feed, and get that accomplished. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good for, a hokey little outfit like what we have. And honestly, and Kent can vouch for this.
That was years ago. We're good. We're pros now.
Yeah, we're pros now. Kent can vouch for this. Yesterday, at maybe this time, we still hadn't figured out how we were going to do it. We had a three-way conversation between him, me, and Hilary. She's already in D.C. with the equipment, but things just aren't working. But we got it to work. And so anyhow, patting ourselves on the back a little bit with that. I want to send it over to Brian.
So Hillary's on the Zoom right now, if you want to talk to her.
Hillary is.
Yeah, let's bring on Hillary.
Wow.
Yeah, bring Hillary in.
Is this the real Hilary Jackson? How you doing?
Here we are, live action.
So I was just bragging about your efforts there, and I didn't know that you were on Zoom. Did you hear me bragging about you?
I'm sorry. I mean, I did, but I think it was definitely a team effort. I couldn't have done it without you guys. I couldn't have done it without, Kent being at my beck and call all day long. Hey, it's time to switch. Hey, we're doing this. Hey, we're doing this. Because that's just how things work in DC. It's, it's very, it's hurry up and wait.
Okay, so you were in, schedule. Yeah, you were out there in DC. You were getting around. You were doing interviews with people. But what was the atmosphere like out there? Pretty incredible stuff. Oh, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I thought you froze up, but you didn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, there were thousands of people there from, all walks of life, all ages. It was really, really cool to see, so many people praising the one true God, and and that is God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. So that was awesome, and it absolutely gave me hope for our future as a country.
Okay, awesome. And Ken, play that little. Well, let me go to this for a second. So this is one other time I'm gonna brag about you right here, real quick, also. But this was another. This was another interview. Are you there, Kent? Can you play this or not?
Yeah, I'll play it.
Go ahead.
So. Christian patriotism and the Judeo-Christian values that built America, the values of faith.
So this guy was very young too.
My God, I believe in
Skylar's younger than I am.
And that American dream can be attainable.
Younger than you?
For all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I won't tell you how old I am, but he's younger than I am.
Yeah, I think he's a little taller than you too, but I don't know.
Oh, Skylar, he was wearing high heels.
Duensing.
Duensing.
The point I want to make here, though, is the point I want to make with this whole thing is that we had our feed here. You and Kent had to coordinate things to stop the live feed, go to here with another live feed, go back, and at times it was done seamlessly. You didn't notice. It made it. We actually looked like we knew what we were doing. But I want to thank you for all your help. So you can cut that off, Kent. So. Tell us, we're just talking, I want to get your thoughts here, about the young generation movement towards Christ. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with, we are in such an age right now where everything is, we want things to be instant, and we have so much access to information where as a nation, I think as a people, just, humankind, we are craving truth and we are craving transparency. But there's only one truth. And that's, the truth that is written in the Bible. And so because we are craving that truth and because there is only one, people aren't accepting what they're being fed online anymore. They're not accepting that as the way that life should be, because they're wanting more, they're craving more. Nobody is, it's not acceptable to just live. You want to live for something, and I'm seeing that. I mean, we saw that today. There was a lot of really, really young people, and Skylar had that craving as well for what the truth really is. So much so that he started an organization to help engage young people, because that was what he was seeing. He was seeing that there were so many young people that had this fire and had this desire to serve and to bring our country back to its principles, but they didn't know what to do. So
you think it's truth? There's a searching for truth, because we were trying to put our finger on what it was. Let me go to Chris. I think we solved the issue. Do you agree with that? Now you froze up.
Oh yeah, it looks like Chris is frozen.
How about Shelby? Shelby, do you agree with that? They're searching for truth.
Yes, I agree that it is a search for truth.
All right.
Amen.
Amen to that. Brian, I don't know if you have a question for Chris, and hopefully Chris is still with us. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's great. The whole thing of the younger generation seeking the truth, seeking Jesus Christ. It's telling us the Holy Spirit is working among us. And I just wonder, does that transcend to the older generations? Or are the, again, in my generation, we've taken the country in the wrong direction, and it's heartwarming to hear the younger generations are just not buying it anymore. I'm just wondering if the younger generations can influence the older generations. I'd love to be able to work with the younger generation in Lake and Geauga County. It would be great to have them be part of the political news and getting the truth out to their generation. That would be a wish that I had.
Get over to Jonathan. Hey, do you have a question for Hilary, well, we have her for a couple minutes, and I'm going to try to get Chris Long back on. He had to.
Yeah, you work on getting Chris Long back on. I'm going to put something out for discussion and consideration. We are very focused, understandably, on America and what's happening in America right now, especially around the attacks on anybody conservative, patriotic, traditional, Christian, Jew, whatever. The left is attacking all of us. So our focus, understandably, is on America. If you expand that lens a little bit and look at what's happening in the West, it's really the same thing. And a lot of people, if you look at what's happening in Ireland, for instance, right now, the Catholics and Protestants walking together and trying to fight back against what's happening there, the growth and the explosive growth within Christian faith in particular throughout the West, not just America, is jaw-dropping. But here's where I think a lot of people aren't looking yet and aren't noticing. It's happening throughout Asia and the Middle East as well. There is a revival that's taking place worldwide of Christianity, and it's amazing to watch. It's amazing to watch just within your local community or the state of Ohio or certainly the United States. And it's true that growth is extraordinary. It's breathtaking. It's amazing to watch. But just, I'll tell you, those two steps, expanding and looking at the West as a whole, looking throughout Europe, pretty much everywhere that I'm looking in Europe right now, there is growth of Christianity and Christian faith, but also I want to get other people's feedback on this, and hopefully we do get Chris Long back on. Hopefully he sees the same thing I am. I actually recently had a conversation with part of a Vietnamese family, and they're talking about some of the family looking for a Christian church and trying to explore denominations within Vietnam. This is amazing to watch, and it's an incredible time to be alive. In my view, it goes back to some of the kind of the belief, the ideology, the searching that you saw during Trump's first term. And one of the catchphrases for me, because I grew up in the 80s with metal and punk rock, people were saying conservative is the new punk rock. I do think there is a little element, it's not all of it, but a little element that adds a little extra appeal for today's youth, of kind of going against and countering the prevailing narrative, because kids are sensing it. They're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're watching these little video shorts and stuff, and they know that a lot of what they're being spoon-fed isn't truth. It isn't reality. They're being lied to, they're being manipulated, they're being propagandized. And when you get tired of that, you search for truth, and ultimately, once you start on that road toward truth, you end up in the Bible. To me, that's just, there's no else. And that's the one last expression on that, because I think it's a really good one. I think it relates to kids getting into university. There's an old expression, and it's a good one, and it's true. With that first sip of knowledge and education, you determine that there is no God. And when you've drunken it all and get to the bottom of the glass, you know that there is God. It's a great expression of paraphrasing. I forget exactly how the expression goes. But that, I believe, is where we are right now.
That's so crazy that you say that, Jonathan, about Vietnamese, because no joke, right next to us when we were down there was a whole Vietnamese family, I guess. And like they have all of this stuff with Trump's face on it, Bible verses. So yes,
Wow.
the principles and the religion and the faith of the Western civilization, it's spilling over, and that was very evident today. So yeah, I had to show you guys. They gave us all these gifts, all these presents, with all these Bible
right.
verses and stuff on it. So super cool.
No, I'm glad. I'm
You're
glad.
getting presents. I can hop in my car and be there in 6 hours. Is there more cool stuff?
I think they're all out of it by now. But I'm really glad that we were able to do that today. I was really glad. Took a step forward on that, Chris. So Hilary was saying that they're searching for truth. Do you think that is part of the reason? Any other thoughts on the whole movement?
Well, that's right. And actually, this generation. Well, I don't presume to talk for them. All I can tell you is that what we're seeing is that it's real. I can tell you as a Christian that has been praying for revival for decades, along with other Christians, that what we're seeing with these young people is true repentance, true search for God. I mean, their hearts are drawn close to Him. This church today is just busting at the seams, and this pastor is on fire. And he said from the Beatitudes, he said, it's not just the Jesus of the, you can't pick and choose. It's the Jesus that of all the things you like that he says. And then he says all the miracles stopped at a certain point. And then Jesus started giving hard sayings to the disciples and to others. And in following him, anyone who follow me must deny himself, pick up his cross and follow me. And this pastor said, we are now going to enter into a time maybe of sifting. Jesus in his own ministry was a time of sifting. I think what this young pastor is going to find is that these young people are going to press in even more. It's not going to disparage them from following Christ. I think it's going to deepen their faith. That's why this is real. This revival. And again, some people say, well, I'm not really seeing it here. Well, get out there a little bit and see what's happening, because it absolutely is happening, and it may be coming to your church next, okay? And young people will start coming to your church. So it's not biased in that way. A lot of churches are experiencing this. So we're going to get out there. We're going to have more reports on this. We're going to go to various churches and basically get a monitor on it. It's funny what the president of the college said back at Asbury. He said, we don't own this. He said, this is a move of God, and it says it's not just constricted even to the United States. We have international guests here. This is spreading internationally. And if you see Franklin Graham, he actually has been spending more time overseas. His son was actually at a South Korean event, and he, what's his name? I'm trying to think of his son's name.
Franklin Graham's
son. No, his son.
Franklin Graham's son.
Yes, his son. He was in an event in South Korea. Then his dad was in Belarus, and that they're preaching all over the world right now, and it's spreading out. And so there really is a time of revival that's going on in America. The question is this an awakening? And it has the elements of the start of an awakening, so that, again, like I said today, from the name of that church, it was one of those trendy names, 539. It's like, because I would pass by, it's like, what does that mean? It's like somebody says, it's Acts 539. That if this be of God, you cannot stop it. And that's what's happening here. So we're going to see a lot more of that as we go forward. So that's what was so encouraging. And it's great that Hilary was on the mall today in this prayer gathering. And, it's funny that we would have promoted it more. We really didn't get much information on it. And I think the reason of that is they didn't want to inundate Washington with a in-person meeting. Now, there was thousands that came, there's no doubt. But it could have been much larger. I've been to a meeting in Washington with Promise Keepers where there was over 1 million men that came on the mall. That was actually the largest human gathering in Washington, D.C. So that would have taken, a lot of effort to put something like that together. But see, what's different now is through Ohio Political News and so many other channels. How many people were tuning in today? I mean, I saved the money that I could watch online and enjoy it.
and follow along with what was being said and what was being prayed. And there was literally millions that were tuning in today. So that, the outreach of that was so much greater than what would have been these gatherings in the past where it was just in person. There'd be some video, maybe some pictures, but not live streaming like we have the technology today. So I think that was, the organizers were thinking in those terms, and I think it was successful in that way. But the main thing is that prayer was happening all across the country for America to turn back to God. And that was the message from today.
Proclaiming the name of Christ the way they did. And I also agree with you there with the whole live streaming stuff, because there are so many different networks putting it out. That's where you're going to get your audience. Maybe there weren't as many people there physically, but once it gets out on all those social media platforms and everything, millions of people will see it, millions and millions. But hey, let me ask you a question, Hilary. One last question, or you might be tired, but
I feel like I got hit by a truck, Joe.
Yeah, I bet. And so what did you take away from this event? Give us some insights, something that from being there that we're not aware of, okay? Because you were there.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that people were the lines to get in went out down the whole mall. And I think one of the reasons why why they tried to, I guess, keep it a little bit more confined than before is because there's this university called Columbia University. And they just had to have their commencement ceremony today at the other side of the mall because I guess they feel like that's an important thing to do. But what I will tell you is the amount of people that were outside of the gates that maybe hadn't registered for the day, the city itself was packed. Like sardines outside of the gates. The lines were all, like I said, all the way down the mall, down past the Washington Memorial to try to get in. And obviously the streaming is great, but we saw so many people that came to Washington from all over the country. We interviewed a lot of people today from Ohio, right? Because it was neat to see people from Ohio, decide to come down too. But there was a group that flew in from China for this event.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
There was a group from Texas that was there that came in for this event. So, did the live stream itself do it justice on how many people were there? Maybe not, but
How many people do you think were there? Any idea?
20,000.
20,000. Okay. Yeah, that's a good turnout. That's a real good turnout.
Yeah,
that is
easy.
an excellent turnout.
It was amazing. It was amazing to see all the people coming to Washington, D.C. for this event specifically. And it's not something, Trump was not able to be there. My boyfriend J.D. Vance, he wasn't there. Obviously there were still a lot of cool people there. The speaker was there. We had Sadie Robertson. We had Lorenzo Sewell, who I got to meet. There were still really cool speakers, but usually when you see a crowd like that, it's because they're looking, because Trump is going to be there. And it was pretty well known that he was not going to be there speaking today, but yet still there was this crowd.
Okay, listen, I want to do this because we have another young guy that just popped in, and let me go over to him. Jason Barnhart. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing really good, Joe.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So you're another Generation Zer. We got on the whole subject of Christ and everything, and that's like right up your alley. You're a Generation Zer, and you've preached about it on this podcast before. So is this like the older people like myself and that we're trying to figure out, is this an authentic explosion from Generation Z reaching out to Christ? Would you confirm that?
I think we're having a revival all around this country, and I don't think it's just centered at one generation. I think it's all across America and all across everything around. But it is igniting within Gen Z. We are seeing vast majorities of my age and my generation going out to church, getting married young, having kids young. And it's just incredible to see everybody coming out and igniting with their faith. And so, yeah, I would say Gen Z is exploding in numbers that we have never seen before in this country.
It's fascinating. Let me get Shelby. Beautiful. I don't want to. Or did Shelby leave? Shelby, did you leave? Or? You left.
Either left or he's
left just when I was going to try to get to you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Or he either left or he fell asleep. One of the two. All right, Chris. Let's. Anything you want to say to Mr. To Jason here? I mean, Jason is a Generation Z. He's on fire for Christ like you would not believe. You should hear him preach. You should hear him preach. It's awesome.
I believe it. I believe it. Well, listen, what to Jason's point, that this is a revival that transcends generations, but the lion's share of it is what's noticeable is these young people, okay? And so that's what really is the next generation that we see happening right now, in churches across Ohio, churches across America, and obviously internationally as well. And I think that everyone needs to see the film The Awakening, because then you get an idea of what actually happened back in before the Revolutionary War. In fact, there's a quote by Benjamin Franklin when he's asked about George Whitefield. He said, "So was he part of the revolution?" He said, "Young man, George Whitefield was the revolution." In other words, he was the lightning rod of the evangelism that took place prior to the revolutionary time period when America was seeking its independence. And again, what Dave Barton told us last year up in Lexington and Concord on that tour. And he said the difference between a revival and awakening is revivals change people's lives. Awakenings change both people and culture. And we've had a first Great Awakening before the Revolutionary War, a second Great Awakening before the Civil War. When he said that, people just got really quiet in the room because they thought, what does that portend about the time period that we're in right now? When we look to the Middle East right now, with the war that's still going on, we're kind of at an impasse right now with Iran. And there's been multiple nations involved in this, just not the United States and Israel and Iran. There's been multiple nations involved, Middle Eastern nations, and all over the region. Iran has struck many different kinds of nations in that region. And so this is a moment that we all need to be praying, because we don't know how this thing's going to turn out. We pray for the president and his efforts. He was just with the Chinese premier, and he's trying to work things out to open up the Strait of Hormuz and come to a place of conclusion. But we really don't know how this is going to work out. And we pray for a cessation of hostilities so we might live in a time period of peace, so that we would see prosperity, and at the same time that we'd see spiritual growth in this country. That certainly is our prayer for our president, for all those in authority, for our military right now. And they have some big decisions to make. But, we are in a very interesting time period in our nation, in our world right now. And I think these young people sense it. Think about that. These young people have been through a lot. They went through the COVID shutdown, the technology, the AI that's coming on the scene. Many of them refusing the technology, and they want more personal relationship and with one another, and obviously with God himself. And so God is honoring that as they're reaching out to him. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call you upon him while he is near, the Bible says. And that's what these young people are doing. And that's what is so profound about it. And so we pray, and I encourage people today, our generation, continue to pray for the watering of this generation, that this continues and grows and prospers.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, Jason, I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about the Republican Party and the primary and stuff like that. So go ahead, take it away, and we'll just dive in with that too, as well. We can talk about more than one subject here. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. But yeah, so right now we're seeing a big shift within the Republican Party. We're seeing a big shift in the demographic of what is happening in this country. And, the president's polls are not looking good. His approval ratings are in deep water. They're in the mud. And the only reason that it's there is majorly the conflict in Iran. You know, Donald Trump said, no new wars, no new wars, no new wars. Yes, this is not a war, but it's still a conflict, and still servicemen and women have still died from this. You know, we were all outraged when 13 members of our armed services were killed under the Biden administration. But when President Trump, and when it happens under his leadership, what does he say? It's just the cost of war. So when you go out there and say stuff like that, that's when people start getting upset. And when people are actually doing their job in Congress, and it's very, very few, because everybody else claims all that money, claims all that property and all that stuff in Congress, they do those little sneaky checks behind closed doors. But when people are actually working, like Thomas Massey, like Warren Davidson, like Lauren Boebert, like Victoria Starks, like Tom Burchett, all these different people that are working tirelessly for not just for their district, but for the American people, and then Donald Trump calls them rhinos, it doesn't work. And my generation and everybody in the Republican Party is seeing it, and we're tired of the lies, we're tired of the hostility, and we're tired of the disgusting actions that this president is taking. Donald Trump's going on Truth Social and posting pictures of Thomas Massey with his widow. Like, what are you thinking about right now? And Thomas Massey's opponent, Ed something, I forget, he's not even
Ed
making
Gallarine,
that round. He's just,
Gallarine or
yeah,
something,
something weird, something stupid. He's not going to win. But you have him going out on Instagram and posting AI stuff, and he's so not smart, he's so unintelligent that he says, oh, here, he doesn't even take out the part where ChatGPT or whoever he used says, here's a modified script for you, and he doesn't even put it. He is AI just without the I. He's artificial without the intelligence.
Well, don't forget, though, that he is not doing all that himself. He's a pretty busy guy. So he's got, a whole marketing department and stuff that's doing it.
Well, that marketing
maybe
department
they're not doing the best of jobs, yeah.
Yeah, that marketing department needs to be fired.
Brian, any thoughts for...
Yeah, the thoughts that I have, and Jason, thank you so much for being on the show. I just love it every time you come. What is incumbent upon my generation, and I lived through the 60s, and we pulled the country in the wrong direction. But what I see, and I'm so happy that the younger generations are coming to Christ, and I hope that just continues and starts to multiply. But what we need to do is my generation. We need to make sure that the American dream is available for Jason's generation. And that means shrinking the size of this government, this out-of-control government. And I keep coming back to the property taxes, but it's symptomatic when I see what is happening in the State House. And you've got Governor DeWine saying fraud, waste, and abuse is just the cost of doing business. It's just not acceptable. Just not acceptable. And now we've got David Thomas saying that he's got a Facebook reel out there, and I just saw it today, where he says they've known about this since 2018, about the fraud in Medicaid expenses in Columbus. They've tried to put legislation in place, but everybody just sort of ignored it. I don't understand, when you see fraud, waste, and abuse, why you need more legislation. No, isn't the executive branch or the attorney general, aren't they supposed to step up for the people? So I get upset when I see, government officials that have been, in the government for 30, 40 years, and they see wasting of billions of dollars. And also I understand they collected more than $1.2 billion, and now they don't know how they're going to spend it. There's no thought of giving it back to the people. So my comment is, my generation, the older generation, the baby boomers, we need to make sure the American dream is available for Jason's generation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Any thoughts on that, Jason?
Well, Brian, I gotta say, you're one of my favorite people on here. So with this fraud stuff that is happening, it's really going to cost the Ohio General Assembly very, very efficiently, because you have a lot of people that knew about this, and you had a lot of people that just said, we'll worry about it when it gets closer to us. Well, it's here. It's at our front door. It's not even at our front door. They kicked the front door in. And it's going to cost us in the primaries. Not the primaries, but the midterms. Every time a president of a party is in office, they usually lose around 5 or 10 seats. I hate saying this because I am still a conservative. I just don't support the president's actions on how he goes through everything. I think it's going to cost us a lot, and we're going to see it happen. The Republicans, I feel like, are going to lose the Senate. We're going to lose the House, and we're going to go back to 2018 when they tried to do all these different things with impeachments, and it's going to cost us. In the state of Ohio, we could lose the supermajority for the Republican Party because the Republicans in office, they knew about the fraud, they did nothing about the fraud, and now they want to put more legislation in order. It just doesn't work. We need to start holding accountable our leaders because they are messing with our future. They are messing with my future. They're messing with further generations down. So we have to, I would want to say, we have to get out there, but I think the Republicans are in deep water with everything going on in the world, and hopefully we don't lose the House and the Senate and DC. Hopefully we can actually retain it. But we need good leaders that are willing to stand up for the American people. And we know the history. Democrats don't stand up for the American people. We see it every single time. Amy Acton is unqualified to be the next governor because she shut down the state of Ohio. She locked down the schools. Two things rose under her administration with the director of health. Suicide rates rose in high schools and failure rates rose in high schools. And now the Democratic Party that says they're a hero of mental health, they are going to reward a person for letting all these things rise, get her the highest office in Ohio, and they're going to say she's the best person for the job. No, she is the most unqualified person for the job.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Well, I don't think the Democrats wanted her. I think Big Pharma is the ones who wanted her.
Absolutely.
Because originally the Democrats wanted to run Tim Ryan, and they wanted to run Allison Russo as a combo. So one would be governor, one would be lieutenant governor. That would have been a really strong ticket. But in my opinion, because the money started pouring into her campaign, it's probably from Big Pharma. And they're saying, no, we want her in there because she'll shut down. If there's a pandemic, she'll shut Ohio down again, and those guys can become incredibly rich and everything. I want to get over to Jonathan here, the voice of Geauga, man.
Well, yeah, when I'm not doing this show, I'm doing Voice of Geauga, Monday through Friday on a drive time AM, 7 a.m. on WINT radio, Voice of Geauga. But back to Ohio political news, a few things. I was just looking on my phone to see if I could find a post. I think I liked it and reposted it earlier that's showing huge increases in Republican voter turnout in California, of all places. So the big question becomes whether or not that's going to be enough to overcome the invader voting. I'm quoting from the Post to call it invader voting, and the cheating. So there's a few things that I want to put out there for Jason. First of all, welcome back to the show. We like having you here, and keep up the good work. The first thing, and this ties back into Hilary Jackson and the work that she's doing in D.C. right now, it's great to see those kinds of turnout, and I love it. And I'd love to see us go back to a bygone era where people actually went places and met and did things face to face. And it's good when that happens, don't get me wrong. But let's face reality. We can accomplish so much more with utilization of technology. I'm just going to give an example. For about 4 years in a row, Steve Stern has put on an annual program and has invited me as one of the guests having to do with precinct strategy and election integrity and precinct strategy. The last one we did was simulcast. It was streamed by a lot of people on social media, and we hit about 6 million people live real time. It jumped up to about 21, 22 million people within a week. That's the kind of influence that people like Jason, I'm assuming you're going to be able to put your finger on the pulse and have that kind of influence going forward. So I guess I'm kind of saying two things simultaneously. One is, for your generation's sake, I hope someday you do get back to just the joy of being with people live and in person. This is not an accusation against you. It's just talking about your generation. And just put down the darn phones and get off the screens and meet people in person, because it's way better. But in the meantime, I hope that you tap into those sorts of things for influence. But one key thing that I wanted everybody to drill down on and understand thoroughly, I kind of chafe at the notion that Ohio has a supermajority. Actually, I chafe thoroughly at the notion. I don't believe that we do. And I keep saying it, and I'll keep continuing to say it. Party rating happened. We have crossover voting that has given us people like Mike DeWine. We have Democrat voters voting in their people who have invaded the party for the longest time, and it's created a uniparty nightmare. So I don't, on face value, just assume if they have an R next to their name that we have some sort of supermajority and that we have all those seats in Columbus. If those people could go down the street into their Democrat headquarters and slot right in and just fill the shoes within the Democrat Party, those are not actually Republicans. What I'm hopeful for, tapping into things like, I run Ohio Rhino Hunters, and precinct strategy, I hope that your generation gets back to the roots, the actual brand, what the messaging, what the intention and background of the Republican Party is, and drive that forward. Get back to truth of the Republican Party. Not just, hey, they have an R next to their name and they're indistinguishable from the socialist left, but gosh, we better go and champion those people. I have hope that your generation is going to step in and hold people's feet to the fire, hold them accountable, and get better, actual, real Republicans in the Republican Party. Then we'll have something.
Well, we gotta keep hoping and praying for that. Any last words, Jason? Any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
Yeah. So the biggest thing right now is turn off the news. Just turn off the news. Not Ohio political news. Keep that on. But turn off the mainstream media. Turn off all the media that wants to divide you. Turn off everything that tells you how to vote, tells you how to think, tells you how to do all these different things. Turn off Sean Hannity. Turn off Mark Levin. Turn it off all. Stop listening to Fox News. Stop listening to CNN. Stop listening to everything. Go into the Word and Scripture. Go into what Jesus talks about, from Matthew to Mark to Luke to everything, to John, to every book that he is giving testimonies for. That is where you're going to find encouragement. That's where you're going to find everything that Jesus wants for us all at the end of the day. So keep your head up, turn to the Lord, and always, always, always put God first at every single decision that you ever make.
Well, God bless you on that. Amen on that.
Amen.
Well, thank you. Thank you for stopping in,
Jason.
okay? Thanks, Jason. We'll be
Absolutely.
talking to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. God bless. So, let's talk about something up your alley, Brian. Let's talk about these property taxes here, okay? I want to play something but you sent this to me, and Ron DeSantis is a great governor. All right, I mean, he is top line. He's the best governor there is in the United States, best governor there is. And he's, by hook or by crook, he's going to get property taxes eliminated for people of their primary residence. So let's watch this 1 second.
DeSantis just laid out his master plan for when property taxes are going to end in Florida, and local politicians who've been feeding off your property tax money are freaking out. Actually get this done without cutting schools, police, roads, or fire. His plan is going to put one simple question on the ballot in November. Do you want to eliminate property taxes on homestead homes? Yes or no? To eliminate property taxes, you gotta change the Florida Constitution. Republicans hold a massive supermajority in both chambers right now, so this should be an easy win. The votes are there. It's not a math problem. Then it lands on the November.
I want to just stop it here for a second. I'll play the rest of it here in just a second. But he's going to have on there such a simplistic statement. Do you want to abolish property taxes, on your homestead residence. Basically, the home you live in. Do you want to abolish the property taxes on the home you live in? And let me ask you a question. I mean, do you think anybody's going to vote no on that? And he's pushing this whole agenda.
Yeah, I agree completely. DeSantis seems to be the best governor, in the country. Head and shoulders above DeWine. DeWine couldn't even carry his bag at all. And how do we put in somebody like DeWine into our office? I can't tell you, Joe. Here's the thing that I've been asked all the time. How many signatures do we have? Okay, how many do we need? We need 413,488 registered voters, valid signatures. Our goal is 620. And I'll tell you right now, Joe, that I've asked all the circulators, all of the citizens collecting signatures, to send them in to us by June 1st, so that we will have an idea of how many signatures we have, and are we going to move forward and give the petitions that we have to the Secretary of State by July 1st. Joe, if you're interested, I'll have a press release with you, and Ohio Political News on June 5th, and we will let everybody know at that time if we're going to move forward for November of 2026, or are we going to continue through November to get it on the November 2027 ballot?
Yeah, so we will definitely want to hear of that. And yeah, I would love to break the news story, because we got a lot of coverage. I mean, the last time we broke that news story about you going in and signing and everything, we got a lot of hits, got a lot of views, and we're glad to get that out. So yeah, we'll promote it. So you're saying, was that June 5th?
June 5th, yes.
Okay, June 5th, which is 3 weeks away, you will make the definitive statement as to whether or not you think you can get the signatures on this ballot. You have enough for this November ballot, or the next one. Definitely
the
by the
basic
next
issue
one.
Is, again, we have to have 413,000 valid. So, we said 620 was our goal, and so we're going to decide, if we only get 414,000 signatures, we probably won't, put it on the November 2026 ballot. So it's just a matter of, we really don't know how many signatures are still out there. I'm still getting petitions for signatures that were collected in 2025, believe it or not. So there's a lot of petitions and signatures out there that have not been, sent to us. So it is difficult to say, right now categorically how many signatures you have. We don't really know.
Okay. I just got word that Timothy Shea, the man who knows everything, can't be on tonight, and didn't give any details, but something else came up. So I want to just go through some of the top Ohio stories here right now. As of today, what are some of the top Ohio political news stories right now? The Ohio Medicaid fraud investigation going on nationally. This is like the number one story. Let's talk about that for a minute, if you guys don't mind. So what has happened is, obviously, with these investigative reporters, Luke Rosiak. By the way, let me play this. This is a good discussion starter. This is Luke Rosiak when he was on Fox News. So let's watch this.
How surprised were you by what you found?
This is one of the most shocking things I've seen in 20 years of doing this. We haven't heard a lot about Doge lately, but they did something really important, which was release data about how Medicaid is spent. That's a big portion of the federal budget, and it turns out that the new welfare queens aren't the people enrolled in poverty programs. They're the companies that get rich giving services.
Yes. I want to read you the statement real quickly.
It's the worst he's seen in 20 years of his reporting, what's going on in Ohio. Not Minnesota, not Maine, not Texas, not New York, but what is happening in Columbus, Ohio, primarily. The worst he's seen in 20 years.
From the sitting governor, Mike DeWine, longtime Republican from Ohio. He writes this: upon review of this article, meaning your article, the article does not seem to allege any fraud in the details provided. Ohio's Medicaid's home and community-based services exist to help individuals who can no longer safely perform daily tasks. Federal law requires these programs to cost less than institutional care, and they consistently save taxpayer dollars versus other options such as skilled nursing home care. He's basically saying, nothing to see here.
What do you think he's going to say?
The hilarious thing is this is a 5-part series in the Daily Wire, and he responded to the overview and said, I didn't see enough facts to see fraud. Like, you didn't even read our story, dude.
Right.
You got to keep checking back in the Daily Wire every day.
What I like best about that is he calls our governor dude. And that's just like so much respect. But he's frustrated. See, what happened is he put out a 5-part series about all the Medicaid fraud. And the only thing that DeWine saw was the trailer, like the one with the highlights of it. That was the only one he saw, and he came out and said, well, I don't really see where we're getting nailed for fraud in his investigation. This guy comes on, he says, dude, you got to look at all 5 of these reports that I put together. And I just kind of...
Joe, I've got something to add to that, and I just saw it today. I may have mentioned it before, but Representative David Thomas out of Ashtabula, he did have a reel on Facebook that he said that the Medicaid fraud has been known since 2018, and the legislators at that time were trying to enact legislation, but for a variety of reasons, nothing was ever done about it. And I keep wondering, is that just the inefficiencies of government, that if you see fraud, you better pass another law to say you can't cheat us out of the money? I don't understand that. What's an attorney general for in the state of Ohio? If they see something that is not right, why don't they do the normal investigation? And if you prove that there's fraud, you bring up charges against them. What's so difficult about that?
Yeah, the thing that I'm finding out, okay, you have the attorney general who's doing the prosecuting, and then you have the auditor, the state auditor, who is supposed to say, give all the red flags and anomalies and all that kind of thing. And Keith Faber hasn't really done that. Yost hasn't done that. Yost resigned. He's going to go. He just hightailed it out. But Keith Faber did come on. He's trying to save grace, and maybe it's all legit. I don't know. But here's the thing he's saying.
What's legit?
He said
Joe?
in 2019 that he approached DeWine through the legislature that these lax rules on Medicaid have to be changed. He came back in 2021 and said the same thing. So that's his side of the story. But
it seems to me that you got to start from from the very beginning. Then, scrap exactly what we have and come up with a program that seems to make sense. Because obviously, what they've got right now doesn't make sense. If you've got so many people that can defraud the system, I'm saying, well, why have it? I mean, it's not acceptable.
There's nobody.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, it's either a bad system that's not set up well, or there aren't people there that are policing the system, which seems also very likely. And if that's the case, switching to some new system isn't going to help. And to both of your point about why we're not just simply following the law and finding the bad guys and throw them in the slammer, at a certain point, I think a lot of this at that level comes down to political will. You have to have the political will. And I think what we're likely to find as we drill down and get deeper into this is that some Ohio politicians are caught up in it in various different ways, including the one that's most obvious is a lot of times they receive contributions, political campaign contributions from some of the people behind some of the fraud. So that makes them willing to turn a blind eye. I'm not making specific allegations because we don't know yet. Speaking of getting to the root of it, I saw somebody put up on the bottom of the screen a name that I'm not familiar with, but they seem to speak very highly of a Joe Socrates Lee. I don't know who that is. I haven't caught any of that person's content. But if you know of somebody in Ohio or focused on Ohio that's doing the deep dive into this stuff and investigating the fraud, Medicaid or otherwise, point them in the direction of Ohio Political News, have them email Joe Miller, and maybe we can get them on the show. That was the recommendation somebody made. I forget, maybe Kent, you can bring that back up again. Joe Socrates Lee, whoever that is, somebody is suggesting getting him on the show. I think what is likely to actually work, and I hate to say it, but just like Washington, D.C., Columbus is broken. It is fundamentally broken. So if we all wait around and tweet and repost and make memes and do podcasts, no offense to those of us on Ohio Political News, we're doing our best. But if that's all we do, these things will never get fixed. But if we can create some actual political will, and that means turning up the heat on politicians, Ohio Political News is good at that. We and many others like us need to expose and then take the next really important step, which is pulling the levers of power. That gets into something I talk about regularly. I brought it up during the segment with Jason Barnhart. That gets into precinct strategy. That is the avenue for we the people to reclaim power and authority, get our voice back in government. One way I want to put that in a clearer context. I'll pause right there. What's up?
I've got a question for you, Jonathan. Do you think the issue is our campaign donations that are coming to these politicians? Is there any way on this earth that we can just eliminate campaign contributions by these lobbyists that obviously are swaying these politicians to vote that's not in the best interest of the citizens of Ohio? So is campaign finance reform, is that what's needed?
Oh, that'd be delightful. That's a major part of the problem. And in Ohio in particular, it was my friend Linda Harvey, who a couple of years ago went through the exhaustive steps of tracking teachers' unions' contributions to Ohio politicians. And they contribute to both sides. You may want to think that teachers' unions, who largely bought a lot of school district board seats, including our state board of education. That don't even get me started with that. When they're paying $90,000 to $95,000 per seat, there's no average citizen in Ohio that can compete with that. So there are really skilled, competent, caring, intelligent people out there who would take a school board seat, but they can't come up and compete with $95,000 to run for and acquire that seat. So yes, the short answer is absolutely. That's not the entire equation, but it's a huge part of it. And that's just teachers' unions. You get into pharmaceutical spending to basically buy politicians. Very soon, everybody out there, all Ohioans, will come to the same conclusion I have, and I've actually done some memes on it, where these politicians should wear NASCAR-style jackets with all the logos of all the different people and PACs, that stands for Political Action Committee, all the money that goes in. It should not be the case that these people get into office on 90, 100, $500,000, 10 million. Who is it? There's a local campaign here that I watched recently, and I was told that Dave Joyce, who recently ran against Nikki Frenchco, I understand that Dave Joyce had $3.5 million to spend to keep his office. I don't know that figure. I was not able to confirm it. But if that proves true, or anywhere in the ballpark of true, who could possibly come out and compete with that? So if we can scale it back, and if we can get to the point where people actually start paying attention again, instead of just who looks the best or who has the coolest last name or whatever, people vote on ridiculous things. It get back to an informed electorate, which it seems that mainstream media does not want. Then I believe we can get back to a point where we can have competent people in office. Wouldn't that be great? We have so many people in Columbus.
Yeah, I did.
Who I wouldn't trust as a dog walker.
Something I learned this week, Jonathan, was I keep hearing the expression "dark money," and I'm not sure that I really understood that, but I now understand it to be this. And please correct me if I'm wrong. And that is, you can set up a 501c4, which is a nonprofit that can collect money but does not have to reveal the donors that gave that C4 money. That C4 organization can make a distribution to a PAC, a political action committee. And so the political action committee is only reporting the money that they got from the C4, which does not indicate the individuals that gave money to the C4. Hence
we run into that. It's very timely that you're in Lake County and I'm in Geauga County. There's an organization, Joe, I don't know if you can interrupt if this is not the direction you plan on heading, but to answer Brian's question, there is a current and recent exact example of exactly that. There's a group calling themselves Ohioans for Responsible Government that formed based out of Wadsworth and used an attorney to hide their identity. So they have an attorney. This is actually common practice. There are lots of different types of organizations. They open up and they use what's called a registered agent. The registered agent is the attorney. So all you can see as the public is the name of the organization and an attorney. I looked up and found the attorney in Mount Union, Ohio. So we've got Wadsworth and Mount Union. And then sometime shortly thereafter, there's a designation of treasurer that gets filed in Lake County, where Brian Massey is. In Lake County, we have one gentleman, I use that term loosely, who shows up as the treasurer of this organization. So then all this money starts flowing around, tens of thousands of dollars. And then lo and behold, there are attack ads and ridiculous propaganda starts pumping in and text messages and postcards. These people in my county, my county should be completely removed from this, but became a target. In my county, these people this organization took a typical slate card from our county Republican Party and mimicked it exactly. It's like those when you falsify somebody's social media profile and make it look like your buddy has created a social media profile. They mimicked a slate card and said, you should vote for all these people. These are our endorsed candidates. And eventually they got around to including a tiny little fine print at the bottom that said that it was paid for by, I'm air quoting this, Ohioans for Responsible Government. Still almost impossible to figure out the money that's behind it. I think what we're figuring out now is that some politicians who were running for office funneled money through the 501c4 that then gave it to the PAC that then attacked their opponent, which is dirty, dark, duplicitous, nasty stuff. Well, it got to the point in my county where the head of our GOP, the county Republican Party, released a big statement saying, that's not us. We didn't endorse. That's an imposter slate card. To the good, overwhelmingly, with so far one exception, everybody in my county ignored the slate card. That slate card, and this just gets, I'm throwing this out there for whimsical fun for our discussion on Ohio political news. That group attacked exactly one volunteer position in the county of Geauga, where I am. They attacked one county central committee representative. And can you guess who it is? That was me. I had my very own, I'm going to frame it and put it on my wall, my very own grainy looking attack ad postcard. And the fake slate card that was put out had one picture, which was my opponent, to try and replace me and shut me up on county central committee, which I take as a big win. That's a side note within our side note, but that tells me that I'm on the right path. I'm calling out the right things, that a group of somebodies was willing to spend that kind of money to go after a volunteer county level position within the Republican Party. But getting back to Brian's point, the fact that all that can happen, all those mechanisms, paying for printing, paying for mailing, paying for postcards, and it's next to impossible to figure out who actually funded it.
Oh, I think the whole law has got to be changed. Where, like Brian was saying, you just can't throw money into a 501c4 and
then hide it
and not have any idea of being able to trace who puts the money there, because then they throw it into a PAC, and then the PAC goes and attacks the candidate, and then you have no way. It's all dark money. Yeah, I got you. So that really needs to be changed. Absolutely.
That's the opposite of the intention of campaign finance laws. The intention of campaign finance laws is anybody running anywhere, the public should know. It should be clear and transparent. And de facto, the existence of that type of structure makes it nearly impossible, which flies completely in the face of all campaign finance laws. There's a reason, if you look up a politician, and you should know this, everybody, our listening audience, if somebody runs for office, you should be able to go and look up their report and see who funded them. As soon as you get into those dark money pools, you can't. It's nearly impossible.
All right, and that's all intentional, and I don't know. It should, obviously, for obvious reasons, it shouldn't be like that. But it is. All right, I'm going to talk here for a minute on the EVV system before we wrap it up here. But you guys know what the EVV system is? The EVV system in fighting Medicaid fraud, that's a GPS tracker. Now, how many of you knew, and I'm talking to Brian, I'm talking to Jonathan here, how many did you know that it was a federal law that you had to have a GPS location verification attached to you somehow when you were going to visit somebody in going to go visit your grandmother and spend some time, play Scrabble with her, and then get reimbursed from Medicaid? You were supposed to have a GPS tracking mechanism. Okay,
no,
federal law.
Not know that.
All right.
Oh.
Wow.
All right, but here's the point. DeWine weakened it. The policy then he adopted was, he didn't say, well, we're going to get rid of it because it's federal law. He just said that you have to sign a waiver if you want it. So you would have to literally sign and say, yes, I want to be GPS tracked.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so who's going to do that? Nobody's going to do that. So Keith Faber, you see, this is some of the rules and regulations that Keith Faber went berserk about, all right? But DeWine insisted that we had to have some sort of privacy and stuff like that. All right, but here's the other point, the obvious point. If you are on the up and up, you probably don't care if you're going to be GPS tracked. It's only going to these locations that you say you're going to. But if you are not playing by the rules, if you're deliberately trying to fraud the system, then of course you're going to make sure that nobody signs that waiver. Because here's the point with those companies, and this was Luke Rosiak was able to find out, those companies have become super rich. They claim that this person, and this person went out to see their grandma, their grandfather, spent 20 hours this week. This one was there 30 hours, whatever. They got a doctor to sign off on it and stuff like that. But no one knows if these people ever did that. Probably didn't. You see what I'm saying? It's just ghost billing to the tune of millions and millions of dollars for each one of these offices and everything. So that's they're going to try to throw DeWine under the bus, because as Barnhart was saying, Jason was saying, we got these very, very important November elections coming up, and this whole Medicaid thing is just going to be a whole toxic cloud over the whole Republican Party here in Ohio. And the Republican Party has got to make sure that
they've got to be exposed. They've got to be exposed. Lies, deceptions, and betrayals have to be exposed, regardless of party, as far as I'm concerned. And that's what we do at Lobbyists for Citizens. As you can see in the logo, we're shining a light on the truth. And we think honesty, integrity, and transparency are the keys to good governance. And we're going to promote that by exposing lies, deceptions, and betrayals at the local,
Brian,
state, federal level.
But Brian, where do we go from there? I mean, it's important and it's great. I agree with you. And let's call them out. The problem that we run into in Ohio that I think is going to be our further downfall and it's you. I'm actually quoting Brian Massey when I say we're first in aviation and 37th and everything else. We will continue our slide if we simply call these things out and say, oh gosh, look what the Republicans, and I'm air quoting that, look what the Republicans allowed to happen. Well, we had the supermajority, but that goes back to the issue that I illustrated or tried to, hopefully it landed and is successful, when Jason was on the program earlier. I disagree. I fundamentally disagree. Let's focus on this as a teachable moment. If we can successfully message that we have a uniparty, that we have that party rating happened, and that we have many people within the Republican Party who don't belong there. If you don't agree with the sort of inflamed way that I say it, hoping that I'm get attention, then just think of it this way. There is an expression that I think most people can agree with. With Republicans like that, who needs Democrats? That expression, I think, lands with a lot of people, and it's true. If we can do a better job going forward of filling up the Republican Party with people with moral standards, with values, hold them accountable, clean up our own, and actually get back to doing the things that we put on things like our platform. If we publish a platform that we believe in certain values and certain things, and we advocate for things, and we fight for the people, and we are for a strong education system, if we put those things out there in the future, it's possible we could get back to a strong Republican Party that represents something, that draws people in and encourages people. And that is the vehicle that could represent the rebirth of Ohio. Short of that, we're going to have people saying, oh, well, gosh, the Republicans are bad, so therefore we should just vote in all the social communists in the Democrat Party. Things will get even worse, and we will continue on the slide, and we'll be first in aviation and 50th and everything else. So I hope that more people embrace precinct strategy.
I don't disagree with you, Jonathan, on that. I mean, I can point out to the average citizens, though, that just don't get on. They're registered to vote, but they just don't get off the couch and go vote. So that's a number one problem. You've got to you've got to be involved, in your community, in your state, and be concerned about the direction of the state. So if we can't, pardon me, there's little inspiring.
Sorry,
I mean,
there's little to inspire.
Still, but with this upcoming election, we got to get the vote out, guys. We've got to get the vote out, inspired or not. We've got to get the vote out.
But again, the problem is we had a Marcel Strivich, fighting, against Robert Sprague, I believe it was, and and he didn't make it. But boy, that's the type of people, the younger generation that we need, not this revolving door that we have, currently. And it comes down to the money. Money is driving our political scene, and it's not sustainable. We can't continue the way we're going.
You're right.
Well, the only thing I want to say is we have to keep encouraging turnout, because if the Republicans don't show up, we're in bad shape. The only thing that's going to defeat us is if we don't get good turnout in November.
We need more Jasons is what we need.
Nationally and in Ohio. Yeah, we do. We need more. All right, Kent, you want to wrap it up? What do we got here? Look at all these shirts. What do we got? Mugs, shirts, everything.
Yeah, and for what we're doing, especially today, everything, it does cost money. There is a donation button at the top. If you're on any of the platforms like Rumble, you can do a Rumble rant. You can send gifts on Rumble. You can do super chats on YouTube, Facebook stars, anything that you can do financially, that we appreciate that. I know And if you have any events coming up in the summertime, let us know that we can cover. We'll gladly help out doing that. We're trying to get around the state, covering as many events as possible. And go to ohiopoliticalnews.com/shop to get the property tax shirts. And I know we've been selling a whole bunch. I know in the last couple of weeks we've been selling a couple of the mugs and the t-shirts, so appreciate it. I know I wanted to mention Hilary had a Ohio Political News. We're going to add that to the shop. We appreciate Hilary with all the camera guy. I know it's a lot of work. It was really warm out there, and I think what we did tonight or today was really shows what Ohio Political News can do. And if anyone is interested in helping out, please let us know. You can reach out to Joe at ohiopoliticalnews.com for any to be a guest, or if there's any events coming around your neck of the woods we'll like to cover. So thanks.
Yeah, that's excellent, because we do need to people are out there that have a little niche about something going on in their community that we would never know about, and they want to talk about it. Bring it to our attention. Just please email me, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Brian, thanks again as always.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. One last thing. Next Saturday I'll be in Hartville collecting signatures from, I think it goes from 10 to 4 or something like that. And then on Sunday we'll be down in Utica. So we're doing some road trips on the weekends now. So hopefully we'll get to see a lot of the Patriots out there in the state of Ohio.
And June 5th, you're going to make a special announcement. We'll cover it there. Jonathan,
correct.
Have yourself a great thanks again for all you do. Voice of Geauga. Catch you in the morning.
Ditto. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks,
Good night,
Jonathan.
everybody.